Welcome back, America. We're here with a wonderful guest, good friend of mine, Douglas Murray. He's written On Democracies and Death Cults, Israel and the Future of Civilization. He's a Manhattan Institute Senior Fellow. He's also a resident of New York, which is having this appalling election that's coming up. Douglas Murray, a couple of quick questions for you. Let's start this way. Number one, this fusion of Marxism and Islamism that we see in New York, in the streets, in our colleges and universities, in the politics and so forth and so on. The United States and the West really has had its guard down for a long time. Isn't that part of the problem when it comes to immigration and education and all the rest of it?
Absolutely it is. I mean, the amazing thing is, Mark, that all of these things are getting worse, certainly in the case of the mayoral race in New York that you just mentioned. But people like you have diagnosed these problems for decades, I mean, we have known for even longer, we've known for 50, 60 years, the rot in the universities, for instance. We've known about this, and yet it gets worse and worse. The key thing, as I've written about in a number of my books, has been that we have been inculcating, spreading, indoctrinating a new generation of Americans into anti-Westernism. And anti-Westernism can be anti the United States of America, it can be anti-capitalism, it can be anti any number of things. But one of the things, of course, is it's always anti-Israel. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen this obscene meeting place, this extraordinary coalition of so-called progressives and the most regressive groups on the planet, terrorist groups, terrorist regimes. These so-called progressive groups in New York that would like to think that they're the main force behind Mamdani, for instance, they think of themselves as progressives, but they fly the flags of terrorist groups. They chant support for martyrs. They call for intifada, even though intifada has killed, among other things, American students having coffee at a cafeteria in an Israeli university during the Second Intifada. Yet still, these people call for these things. It doesn't make any sense until one just realizes that the one thing all these groups have in common is that they're anti-West, they're anti-us, in favor of anything, so long as it doesn't come from here.
Well said. And you see this mix, this fusion of the Marxists. I'm sick of them calling them socialists. They're Marxists and the Islamists. And you see the combination of these two, and it's because they have one thing in common, don't they? That is the hate for the Enlightenment, hate for individual liberty, hate for capitalism, which is basically the economic manifestation of liberty. In other words, centralization of coercive power. That's what they stand for, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's all that old-fashioned Marxism, as you know. It's all that old-fashioned Marxism, but with this weird sprinkling now of jihadism on the top as well. I mean, and the most Islamist of mindsets. I mentioned in my column in the New York Post this week, just consider the fact that Mamdani, the lead candidate to run the biggest, most important city in the United States of America, New York City, has called for the arrest of the Israeli prime minister if he were to set foot in New York City, has called the elected prime minister of India a war criminal. Why would anyone single out these people? Why would somebody single out a Hindu leader and the world's only Jewish state's leader? It's because that's just Islamist sectarian politics. You never hear these people calling for the arrest of the Ayatollahs if they come to the United Nations General Assembly. You never hear them calling for the arrest of the president of Turkey, who's literally still occupying half of Cyprus, which is an EU member state, and has been oppressing the stateless people, the Kurds. You never hear any of that. This is Marxism with this sprinkling of Islamist politics on the top. And, you know, many of us have always hoped that this coalition would fall apart under the weight of its own contradictions, because they are absolutely manifold, the number of contradictions. But actually, it needs much more than that. In my view, it needs decent, ordinary Americans to come out and say, this weird fringe minority obsession, you can have that, but that's not us. That's not the United States of America. That's not where the mainstream here is. 1 million people might vote for Mamdani, There are 5 million people who can vote in New York mayoral elections. And this all relies, as in so many other cases, on the good people coming out.
When we return, Douglas Murray, the Democrat Party and its leaders, have you ever seen anything so embarrassingly feckless as these people?
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.